For more, especially on the topic of gun control in Thailand, our correspondent Wong joins us here in our studio. May, it's great to have you here with us in our studio. First of all, the attack took place in the evening, when people were mostly done with work at a mall in the heartland of Bangkok, very popular with tourists and locals. When the news broke yesterday, how did the nation react to it? What were some of the things that came to your mind?
Well, Siam Paragon is not just about attracting the crowds in the evening. It is in the heart of downtown Bangkok, and it's packed with people all day long because it's filled with not just tourists, but also with locals. Obviously, it sent shockwaves across the country, not just in Bangkok, but across the country for a couple of reasons. Number one, happening in Bangkok, the capital, when this is the economic hub of the nation, that's one thing. Another point is it's also extremely raw in terms of emotions because it somewhat coincides with almost 1 year of what happened previously in the village or in the northern part of Thailand when we saw childcare kids getting shot and killed earlier, right, 1 year ago. So these are still emotions that people are trying to grapple with. And obviously with this happening right now when the country is meant to pick up, not just economically, but with a new government in place, the whole system was supposed to have been going forward quickly, accelerating. But at this stage right now with the shooting, well, it has caused not just a damper on the economic situation, but also in terms of the government's approach to all of this. At the end of the day as well, how is the government going to tackle this? Lots of questions to be asked.
Yeah, it is a stark reminder that nowhere is safe, really. And the timing of it came at a time when the nation is trying to roll out these initiatives to boost its tourism industry. How is this latest incident likely to affect foreigners traveling or planning to visit the country?
The tourism industry has always been a key pillar for Thailand's economy. Obviously, in the heydays of 2019, they received 40 million tourists in the country, and they're hoping to kind of creep back into that figure again. This time around, they've given visa exemptions, particularly to Chinese citizens as well as Kazakhstanis, because they're hoping that the Chinese market, one of the top 5 markets in Thailand, would be attracted back into the country. This is the time that they've actually brought them back in. They were streaming in slowly but surely, but now with this incident, there's a lot of concern. Will they continue to come into Thailand? Will they be spooked by the news that has been broadcast and also published worldwide? And obviously, that is something that they are trying to compensate in terms of sending a positive message to say that the government is doing all they can, that the government is ensuring top security, not just for civilians, but particularly for tourists who are seen in these places. But you ask yourself, are they going to install more metal detectors? They didn't work in the first place. Are they going to put out more security officers, doing more bag checks? It's a lot highly unlikely simply because the enforcement bit is the main issue here. You can put out as many measures as you can and want to, but at the end of the day, will you be able to execute it?
Speaking of these measures, for the new Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin, this must be a challenging time for him, I figure, and he has vowed to implement the highest safety standards. How do you think he's managing this crisis so far?
Coming into a new government as it is already, he's got multiple challenges facing him across the board, from politics to economics to social events. He has to deal with all of these, and this one is yet another spanner in the works for him. He has largely, as he assumed his position September the 5th when he was sworn in as Thailand's 30th Prime Minister, he's never really concentrated very much on security, on the issue of safety in the country, because he has left it pretty much to the rest of his ministers, to the rest of his cabinet. He's always centered his attention on economy because he feels that by propping up the economy, things are going to get better. People are going to behave better. Unfortunately, right now, he is now having to confront this head on. In terms of what is he going to do? Gun control has been a major problem and a perennial issue for the country for the longest time. In 2017, there was a report that was put out, 10 million firearms exist in the country owned by civilians. 4 million of these firearms are actually illegal. This government and the previous government by Prayut Chan-o-cha, they have tried to ask people to surrender their firearms without any punishment. Give them some time so that they can give up their weapons and not be prosecuted for it. Whether or not that program has yielded any results whatsoever, that's so difficult to tell at this point. And at the end of the day, it's so easy to get your hands on a handgun simply because I've tried, for example, I've tested the system. You can buy it off the internet very, very freely and very cheaply as well. And when you go into shops as well, they do the regular checks, but if you want to get around it, there's always a possibility.
You talk about that deadly daycare knife and shooting rampage in northern Thailand, and that happened about a year ago, and emotions are high, as you mentioned. That resulted in the death of more than 20 children. Very devastating. You cover that story. Have these latest incidents prompted any changes to the country's gun laws or regulations, or what more do you think the government can do when it comes to their gun laws?
When incidents like that happen, there's always a knee-jerk reaction. Couple of weeks, couple of months, people are going to be up in arms, very angry about it, calling and demanding for major changes, for stricter gun controls in the country. But it's not as easy as it is. You know, you can access guns for various reasons. You can have proper gun licenses for various reasons. For example, farmers. You know that Thailand is an agriculture country. A lot of the farmers have guns because they require them to either get rid of pests and things like that. Yep. And on the other hand, there is no control over how many firearms you can own as a civilian. So you can own as many as 5 or 10. Some people do that, right? And you can use them for hunting, you can use them as shooting, and you can carry the guns anywhere you go. And more importantly as well, what is really needed is really tighter controls, really enforcement, and really getting to the root of the problem in terms of restrictions, in terms of really locking down the open gun sales that are available in the market, and also to reform the police system, because that structure is also breeding a lot of all these problems that are hiding behind and under the carpet. And that's where people are really interested to find out what this new administration can do.
Now, May, before we let you go, what lessons can we learn from this incident?
Well, it's tough to say. Be careful, obviously, right? A lot of people will say that. And it's going to spook a lot of people from entering the mall, particularly over the next couple of days, over the next couple of weeks. But really, you have to look at this situation in entirety. It's not a one-off incident. It's not going to be the end of it all. And no matter how many measures you put out, no matter how many initiatives you put out, at the end of the day, again, I reflect that it's about enforcement, and also the fact that it's hoped that this kind of a situation of gun shootings will not be entrenched in the society like how you're seeing in the United States. And so it's a total package in terms of controlling the guns, but also having proper mental health care situation as well as advisory, and to be able to spot the issues of individuals out there who are facing problems and are not able to talk about it, because in Thailand as well as in Southeast Asia, discussing about your mental wellness is still a very taboo subject.